Hi, it's Kirsten. I wanted to talk to you today about cheerleading in the workplace. And that sounds like a positive thing. It sounds like you're supporting your colleagues, you are helping them, you are cheering them on and helping them to move forward in a positive way. What I consider to be cheerleading is a little bit less positive. In fact, it's a lot less positive. And I describe it as those times when someone comes to you, they're upset about something that somebody else did or said, and they tell you about it, and you say something like, I can't believe she said that to you, and you should complain, and that's not right, and that's terrible, and she's awful. And that's the kind of cheerleading that creates a very toxic work environment. When you're egging people on to escalate the conflict, you're not helping them, you're not supporting them. In fact, you are helping them to feel even worse sometimes, and helping them to take the conflict to the next level. And sometimes, people do need to have that kind of support, right? Sometimes there are things that happen in the workplace that really are truly horrendous and harmful, and people need support to figure out how to manage it. But I think that more often than not, it's conflict. It's a conflict. It's a disagreement, and it's something that can be handled at a level that's one-to-one and stopped, and it can fix the relationship. The mediations that I've done, a lot of the situations that exacerbate over time and snowball to this place where people start to villainize each other, and then they call me in to mediate, they often start with those times where if the people had gotten together and talked it out and shared, here's what the impact was for me when this happened, and clarified assumptions that they might have been making about the other person's intent, it would have saved years of grief. And it would have created an environment and a relationship in the workplace that helped people to feel valued, feel appreciated, and feel able to bring their best selves to the work. More often than not, that's the kind of conflict that people are experiencing in the day-to-day. But I think that we do take it to the next level, oftentimes because we don't know how to manage it, or because we're afraid to go talk to the person because we think it'll make it worse. A lot of the time it's because we're making assumptions about what the other person's intent was. And you may have heard me say before that when trust has broken down, the assumptions we make about other people's intent is negative, and so then the impact on us is negative. And so when someone says to us, she shouldn't have done that, he's a terrible manager, I can't believe that that's what's going on, you should go talk to whatever, we're really not being supported to have the kinds of, I think, relationships that we want to have that help us do our best work and help us have that harmonious work environment that I think all of us are looking for. So what I encourage people to do is, instead of being that cheerleader, to be a coach. So we do want to listen. I certainly think it is healthy for people when they're upset about something to go talk it out if that's what they need to do. My first encouragement, of course, is talk it out with the person that you are experiencing the conflict with. The further you get away from doing that, the more the conflict builds, the harder it's going to be to have the conversation, the more upset that gets created. But sometimes we do need to talk with someone first. And my hope is that who you might talk to and who we can show up as in our workplace is someone who is a coach rather than a cheerleader. And so what I mean by that is that I want to encourage you to, yes, listen, be empathetic, acknowledge feelings, sounds like, this was really upsetting for you. I can tell you're really frustrated. But instead of saying, she should never have done that, he should never have said that, you should complain to whoever, instead, my hope is, and I think how we can be most helpful to people, is to help them to identify, are there assumptions that they've made about the other person's intent? What do they know for sure? They know for sure what the impact has been for them. And my encouragement to them would be to think about, how can you share that with the other person? How can you talk to the other person, find out what their intent was, clarify any assumptions that you may be making in the situation, and share with them what the impact has been, and do that face to face. Email, no good when there's conflict. Phone, a little bit better, but still not great. You want to do this face to face. If there's conflict, if there's an opportunity for there to be conflict, you want to do it face to face. So to be a coach rather than a cheerleader, you want to, yes, listen. You want to, yes, be empathetic, acknowledge feelings, but then switch to asking them some questions, right? Like, what was it that concerned you about the situation? What were the needs that weren't being met by the situation? What do you worry will happen if this doesn't get resolved? And maybe, what was the impact for you? And then help them think about, are there assumptions that they're making that would be helpful for them to clarify? And then encourage them to go talk to the other person. If it helps them to do a little role playing with them or whatever, that's great. But the faster that they can go talk to the other person in those situations where it's safe to do so, and a lot of the times I think, misjudge when it's safe or not safe to do so, but in those times where it's safe to do so, encourage them to go talk to the other person face to face. And maybe they do have to escalate it after that if it doesn't work out. But really, that's the first step. And when we skip that step, which I think a lot of people do, I see a lot of people do, when we skip that step, that's those times where it starts to, I'm doing a little thing here, you can't see it, you just see my hand flipping back. That's that time when it snowballs, right? And it escalates to the point where, we're talking about years of conflict. Maybe we're talking about people leaving the job, or maybe we're talking about people calling someone like me in to mediate the situation. So be a coach, not a cheerleader. There's other resources that you can find on my website that will help you think about how to do that in a way that can be effective. Thanks for listening.